Welcome back to World Gone Weird. Today we're diving into a news story that is so bizarre. It could only come from the fevered mind of, well, you know who.
Let me guess. Something about owning a strategic piece of real estate? Possibly with a gaudy tower and golf course attached.
Bingo. Apparently, Trump wants the U.S. to take over Gaza, build the Riviera of the Middle East, he says, and, naturally, relocate the Palestinian population.
I saw that. I honestly thought it was satire at first. The sheer scale of the displacement he's proposing, it's staggering and incredibly insensitive given the history.
Insensitive is putting it mildly. It's a Trumpian solution, isn't it? Force a deal, ignore the consequences, and claim victory. I'm just surprised he didn't propose building a wall around the whole thing and charging admission.
Oh, don't give him ideas. Next thing you know, he'll be selling Make Gaza Great Again hats.
From a purely logistical standpoint, this plan seems implausible. The forced relocation of almost 2 million people, the logistical, economic, and social impact on neighboring countries, even if they were willing, would be catastrophic. Where would they even go?
That's what I keep thinking. Egypt and Jordan have already pushed back hard. They're already dealing with huge refugee populations. This could destabilize the entire region. And then there's the question of international law.
International law? You think that's going to stop him? Look at his past suggestions. Greenland, Canada, the Panama Canal. He clearly sees international relations as a giant real estate negotiation. Everything's for sale, folks. What's your price?
And let's not forget the whole Riviera of the Middle East bit. Seriously? Does he think people are going to flock to Gaza for a luxury vacation after it's been, cleaned out, as he so delicately put it?
The term cleaned out is particularly chilling. It evokes images of ethnic cleansing, not urban redevelopment. There seems to be a real lack of understanding, or perhaps a willful ignorance, of the deeply rooted historical and cultural significance of that land to the Palestinian people.
It's just baffling. You'd think after decades of failed peace negotiations and endless cycles of violence, someone would try a different approach. Something based on mutual respect and understanding, not forced displacement and American ownership.
Mutual respect, understanding. In this political climate, you're dreaming, Otto. This isn't about solving the problem. It's about scoring points with a certain segment of the population that wants to see Israel expand and Palestinians, disappear.
Yeah, the Israeli far right is eating this up, according to the article. One lawmaker even said Trump's comments vindicated their position.
That's incredibly concerning. The normalization of such extremist views is a dangerous trend, and the fact that a U.S. president is giving them legitimacy, it's frankly appalling. It lacks a scientific basis or ethical foundation. A scientific study should have been done to study the ramifications of a solution like this.
I worry about the long-term consequences. How does this affect U.S. credibility in the region? How does it impact our alliances with countries like Egypt and Jordan, who are already on the brink?
Credibility? Alliances? Those are quaint concepts in the Trump era. It's all about America first, even if America first means alienating everyone else.
Well, at least it's creating some bipartisan agreement. Even GOP senators are scratching their heads over this one. One called it problematic with a couple of kinks in that slinky.
That's an understatement. I appreciate that some Republicans are expressing skepticism, but skepticism isn't enough. We need strong condemnation and a clear rejection of this dangerous and ill-conceived plan. There has to be scientific rigor behind the planning of a relocation on that scale and the ramifications of such a decision.
It just feels so colonial, like we're still in the 19th century, divvying up territory based on our own self-interest, with no regard for the people who actually live there.
Exactly. It's the white man's burden all over again, just repackaged with a shiny new Trump tower.
Speaking of shiny new things, remember when Trump showed Kim Jong-un that corporate-style sales video of gleaming skyscrapers offering him a real estate development in exchange for nukes? It's the same playbook.
The comparison to North Korea is telling. It highlights the transactional, almost mercenary, nature of Trump's foreign policy. It's less about diplomacy and more about deal-making, regardless of the human cost. A scientific understanding of political nuance is not being explored.
And then there's Jared Kushner's comments from last year, talking about Gaza's valuable waterfront property if people would just focus on building up livelihoods. It's like they see the whole conflict as a real estate opportunity.
Of course they do. These are real estate guys through and through. They see everything through the lens of profit and loss. Human lives, just collateral damage in the grand scheme of the deal.
So, what happens next? Does this plan actually have a chance of moving forward, or is it just another Trumpian fantasy?
I sincerely hope it's the latter. But the fact that it's even being considered, that it's being given airtime and legitimacy, is deeply troubling. It speaks to a fundamental flaw in our political discourse, a willingness to entertain ideas that are not only morally reprehensible but also scientifically unsound from a socio-political and logistical perspective. What's next? Turning Mars into a giant golf course.
I agree. We need to push back against this narrative. We need to amplify the voices of those who are advocating for peaceful solutions and for the rights of the Palestinian people. We need to remind everyone that this isn't a game. It's about human lives and the future of an entire region.
Good luck with that, Otto. In this world of sound bites and Twitter wars, nuanced arguments and appeals to reason are a dying breed. But hey, maybe if we slap a limited edition label on it, people will actually pay attention.
Well, let's hope sanity prevails. In the meantime, I'm bracing myself for the inevitable Trump Gaza Riviera merchandise. Think I'll get a discount if I buy beachfront property? Oh wait, there won't be a beach. And it has to be profitable, of course, so you'll pay an added tax for the luxury of existing.
See? They just keep finding new ways to make money from our existence. What's next? Taxes on our breathing air. It's like they're turning life into one big subscription service.
With Elon Musk now helming the Department of Government Efficiency, it seems all aspects of our lives are to become commodified, assessed through a profit-driven lens devoid of ethical considerations and lacking robust scientific analysis. How can we ensure that objective, scientifically validated outcomes of such initiatives are given priority?
We have to keep fighting. We have to find ways to make our voices heard. We need to support organizations that are pushing for real change and holding these people accountable. It's hard, I know, but we can't just give up.
I'm not giving up, just investing in a good therapist.
On a slightly less depressing note, Missouri's apparently following Trump's lead in establishing their own government efficiency committee. Because clearly, what Missouri needs is more bureaucracy, not less.
And of course, they're asking the public to report perceived waste. I can already imagine the flood of complaints about, well, everything.
It's a good idea in theory, right? Getting citizens involved in identifying inefficiencies. But it can also be weaponized pretty easily. It needs scientific control factors.
Weaponized? You think? This is Missouri we're talking about. It'll be a free-for-all of partisan gripes and petty complaints.
And who's heading this committee? Mary Elizabeth Coleman, because that's a name that screams objective and unbiased.
The article mentions that submissions are subject to state open records laws, which means everything you submit will be public knowledge. So, think twice before airing your dirty laundry about your local DMV.
I'm wondering how this will interact with the existing checks and balances. Will recommendations be scientifically reviewed and based in data-driven metrics, or is it purely performative? What will stop the government from being inefficient because they don't have a better understanding?
Performative, Otto, performative. It's all about optics. Look at us, we're being responsible with your tax dollars. Meanwhile, they're probably funding another boondoggle that benefits their cronies.
And speaking of boondoggles, let's not forget Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. Apparently, it's causing quite a stir.
That's putting it mildly. The article describes it as a disruption of the federal government on an unprecedented scale. Government workers are being pushed to resign, agencies are being shuttered.
I'm torn. On one hand, I'm always in favor of efficiency and streamlining government, but the way this is being done, it sounds incredibly heavy-handed, and the fact that they're giving Musk, a private citizen, so much control, it's unsettling.
Unsettling? It's terrifying. This is a guy who's already running multiple companies, who's known for his eccentric behavior, who's openly aligned with Trump.
And apparently he's using his dodgy team to access the most sensitive Treasury Department information of countless Americans. That sounds like a massive privacy breach waiting to happen.
Absolutely. There needs to be strict oversight and accountability. The potential for abuse of power is enormous. It's like handing the keys to the kingdom to a mischievous child with a flamethrower and without scientific testing of the outcomes.
It's frustrating. It feels like we're constantly lurching from one crisis to another, from one extreme to another. There's no middle ground anymore, no room for compromise or reasoned debate.
Compromise? Reasoned debate? Those are relics of a bygone era, Otto. Welcome to the age of polarization and outrage.
Well, at least Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is speaking out. He called it an unelected shadow government conducting a hostile takeover. To which Musk responded, "Hysterical reactions like this is how you know that Doji is doing work that really matters."
That's not exactly reassuring. It's like he's deliberately trying to provoke a reaction to create more chaos and division.
I don't know. Maybe there's a method to his madness. Maybe he genuinely believes he's doing what's best for the country, even if it means breaking a few eggs along the way. The problem is, who tests the safety of that madness or belief?
Oh, I'm sure he does. Just like every dictator and autocrat throughout history genuinely believed they were doing what was best for their country. That's how they justify their actions. But the road to hell is paved with good intentions, Otto.
And let's not forget the irony of Musk, the billionaire CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, being put in charge of government efficiency. It's like putting a fox in charge of the henhouse.
Precisely. It raises fundamental questions about conflicts of interest and the influence of corporate power in our political system. Where is the scientific and technological innovation without regulation and scientific principles?
So, what do we do? How do we stop this from spiraling out of control?
Stop it? You can't stop it, Otto. It's already happening. The best we can do is try to mitigate the damage and hope that the courts step in to put a check on their power.
Yeah, the article mentions a judge already putting a pause on some of OMB's actions. So maybe there's still some hope for the rule of law.
Let's hope so. But we can't rely solely on the courts. We need to be informed, engaged, and vocal. We need to hold our elected officials accountable and demand that they uphold their oaths to protect the Constitution. We need science, not politics.
I agree. We need to organize, protest, and make our voices heard. We need to support candidates who are committed to protecting our democracy and fighting for a more just and equitable society.
And maybe, just maybe, we can convince Elon Musk to focus on building electric cars and rockets instead of tearing down the federal government. Although, knowing him, he'll probably try to do both at the same time.
Well, maybe building rockets isn't a bad idea. It'll help humanity get to other places in case we fail here.
Okay, now you're just being depressing.
Sorry, just trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Let's look at another point. This article states the prime ministers of Australia and Ireland, foreign ministries from China, New Zealand, and Germany, and a Kremlin spokesman all reiterated support for a two-state solution. It's fascinating how many countries still support a two-state solution, despite how it goes against Trump and Israel. They understand that lasting solutions aren't built on dominance, but on fairness.
But it still brings up the question, can we, as a global society, evolve beyond the impulse to wield dominance and authority? Can we build societal structures on trust, on mutual respect, and sound scientific reason rather than force and unilateral control?
That's what humanity should be striving for.
You're right. Even just considering the news, we can see that these are deeply connected and cannot be separated, even though the media likes to simplify and separate.
As we see these events unfold, and considering our topic of unintended consequences, how can we predict and mitigate potentially negative results? Is there some sort of framework we can create that has enough flexibility to adjust, but is stable enough that it follows rational protocols? It feels like everyone is creating plans in isolation.
That's all the time we have for today, folks. Join us next week when we'll be discussing the latest conspiracy theories and questionable dietary supplements. Because, let's face it, at this point, anything is possible.
Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay reasonably sane.
And remember, folks, don't believe everything you read on the internet, especially if it comes from a guy with a gold-plated toilet.
And always, always question authority, even ours.